Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comments where and what time you're tuning in from. The year is 1892. You wake up in the middle of a cold, damp graveyard. The first thing that hits you is the smell. Not the familiar stench of decay or ancient dust from a forgotten crypt, but something else entirely. It's a mix of wet earth, iron, and a faint, acrid smoke carried on a brisk wind. It stings the inside of your nose, sharp and unwelcome. Your mouth is dry, coated with a gritty film that tastes faintly of old pennies and moss. You try to swallow, but your throat rasps, protesting the movement. You feel the ground beneath you, hard and uneven, digging into your ribs through surprisingly thin fabric. A shiver runs through you, not just from the biting chills seeping into your bones, but from a deeper, unsettling dread. This isn't where you remember falling. This isn't anything you remember. You push yourself up onto your elbows, the muscles in your back screaming in protest, a dull ache radiating from your spine. The world tilts, spinning for a dizzying second before settling into a hazy gray. Above you, the sky is a bruised purple, heavy with unspoken rain. Wisps of fog cling to ancient leaning headstones, their inscriptions worn smooth by centuries of weather. You scan your surroundings, trying to make sense of the jumbled landscape. There are too many jagged monuments, too many unfamiliar shapes, no grotesque gargoyles or crumbling castle walls, just stones. And beyond them, a vague, dark mass that might be trees or some looming structure. You fumble at your side, your hand instinctively reaching for the familiar weight that should be there, but finds only cold, empty air. Panic, a cold knot in your gut, tightens its grip. You press your palms against the rough, cold stone of a tombstone next to you, steadying yourself as you slowly stand. Your legs feel like lead, clumsy and stiff. Each movement is a deliberate effort, like your body is remembering how to operate after a long, unwanted slumber. A distant clang, like metal on metal, pierces the heavy silence, followed by a faint, rhythmic thrumming that makes the ground tremble subtly beneath your feet. It's a mechanical heartbeat, entirely alien, completely out of place. You turn your head, straining to pinpoint its source, a new kind of anxiety bubbling up inside you. The world feels muted, yet overwhelmingly loud in its strangeness. You realize then, with a slow, creeping horror, that you are not just lost, but utterly, completely adrift in a world that refuses to speak your language. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a drum against the unfamiliar symphony surrounding you. This is a cold awakening. This is a place you don't belong, and the understanding settles deep, heavy in your chest. The metallic thrumming grows louder, a pulsating tremor under your feet that vibrates up through your weary legs. It's a grinding, clanking symphony, entirely alien to your ears. A sound without organic life, yet impossibly powerful. You push through the oppressive fog and the ancient stones, drawn by a perverse curiosity, an instinct to understand this new, unsettling presence. The air shifts, losing its graveyard dampness, replaced by a faint, unfamiliar warmth and a sharper, almost metallic tang that pricks at your sinuses. You emerge from the solemn shadows of the cemetery, blinking against a sky that, despite the gloom, seems unnaturally brighter, more expansive than any firmament you remember. The jagged outlines of what you'd mistaken for distant gnarled trees resolve into towering brick structures, their surfaces blackened by soot. Smoke, thicker and grayer than any pyre you've witnessed, billows in dark plumes from tall, cylindrical chimneys that pierce the low-hanging clouds. It's not the wood smoke of a village hearth, or the sulphurous fumes of a demon's lair, but something acrid and industrial, catching unpleasantly in the back of your throat. Then you see them. People. Small, quick figures bustling along a cobbled path. Their clothing is dark, muted, and utterly devoid of the ornate flourishes or protective plates you're accustomed to. They move with an unnatural speed, not like a panicked flight, but a purposeful haste, their faces mostly downcast or fixed ahead. You notice their averted gazes, quick flickers of apprehension as they catch sight of you, your tattered garments and the unfamiliar way you carry yourself, still and out of place. Some even quicken their pace, pulling their children closer to their sides, their expressions a mix of fear and dismissive curiosity. You are a ghost to them, or perhaps something more grotesque. A thunderous rumble shakes the ground, closer this time, a visceral vibration through your very bones. A monstrous black carriage without horses streaks past on metal tracks, spewing even more of that choking smoke. Its polished windows glint, reflecting the dull sky, and a chilling, shrill whistle pierces the air, making your ears ring and your teeth ache. Your hand twitches, instinctively reaching for a familiar weapon that isn't there, ready to deflect an attack. But there is no visible beast, no obvious foe, just this terrifying machine disappearing into the gray distance. It's a primal shock, a complete dismantling of your understanding of movement, power, and threat. Your eyes dart, scanning frantically for any familiar landmark, any anchor to the world you left behind. But there's only this relentless, alien energy. The incessant clatter of cartwheels on cobblestones, the distant shouts that aren't cries of battle, the pervasive smell of coal and something sweet, sickly, like burnt sugar. Your senses are overloaded, each input a new assault on your established reality, a relentless tide of the utterly unknown. You realize you're standing perfectly still, a beacon of anachronism, while the world around you rushes by with an indifferent, unstoppable momentum. To simply exist here, you understand, you must learn to navigate this cacophony, or risk being swallowed whole by its relentless, alien tide. Survival, it seems, demands not just strength of arm, but an entirely new kind of sight. The cacophony hits you like a physical force, a relentless wave of sound that tries to drown out your thoughts. It's not the sharp crack of bone or the shriek of a demon, but a dense, living wall of noise. The constant clatter of countless hooves and iron-shod wheels on stone, distant shouts that aren't calls to arms, the clang of bells marking unseen hours, and an underlying persistent hum that resonates in your chest. Your ears ring, struggling to pick out individual threats from this urban roar, an impossible task. You push deeper into the labyrinthine streets, a hesitant figure in a ceaseless current of bodies. The buildings here loom tall and dark, pressing in on either side, their brick faces smudged with soot and grime. The air, already heavy with the acrid scent of coal smoke, now carries the metallic tang of something else, something vaguely sweet and sickly, mixed with damp earth and the pervasive, inescapable smell of too many unwashed people. You pull your cloak tighter, a futile gesture against the chill and the invisible assault on your senses. The crowd itself is a strange beast. People rush past you, their faces mostly grim, eyes fixed ahead, avoiding contact. You try to mimic their hurried stride, but your movements feel stiff, out of sync. You find yourself constantly dodging, weaving through narrow gaps, your instincts honed for combat, not this endless, mundane ballet of avoidance. A sudden jolt, as someone brushes past, their shoulder hard against yours, sends a spark of old adrenaline through you. You turn, ready, but they're already gone, swallowed by the tide, not even a glance back. You are a phantom to them, unnoticed or deliberately ignored. As the bruised purple sky fades into a deeper, starless black, a new, unsettling light begins to bloom. Tall, ornate iron poles lining the street ignite with a soft, yellowish glow, not the warm, flickering comfort of a torch, but a steady, unnatural luminescence. Gas lamps. You hear someone mutter the word strange on your mind's ear. Their light pushes back the gloom, but casts long, distorted shadows that dance with every passing carriage, making the familiar shapes of the street waver and shift. It's a disorienting spectacle, a constant play of light and shadow that makes it hard to gauge distances, to trust what your eyes tell you. You press on, the endless maze of similar-looking streets and identical brick facades blurring into a monotonous pattern. Each corner turned brings no relief, no familiar landmark, only more of the same endless clamor and shifting, artificial light. Your senses are on overdrive, yet strangely dulled, unable to find a clear path or a moment of respite. This is not a forest where you track your prey, nor a castle where every shadow hides a danger you understand. This is a perpetual motion machine, an alien landscape of sound and light, where the greatest challenge isn't a demon, but simply finding a way to exist, unnoticed, uncrushed, amidst its indifferent, relentless churn. You are a single, lost note in a symphony you cannot comprehend. You find yourself in a narrow alley, the air thick with a smell of damp brick and something undeniably organic like stale refuse mixed with unseen vermin. It's a familiar scent profile in some ways, recalling forgotten dungeon corners, but here it lacks the underlying rot of true death, replaced by a pungent, sickly sweetness. You pause, your senses on high alert, your head tilting instinctively, trying to separate individual elements from the pervasive urban stench to identify a potential threat. But there's no clear source, no single monstrous entity, just the generalized, overwhelming effluvium of human habitation. Your eyes, accustomed to discerning shadows that hide skeletal warriors or the glint of a vampire's fangs, now scan the grime-caked walls for purchase, for any vantage point. The smooth, monotonous bricks offer no handholds, no gargoyles to leap to, no crumbling ledges to scale. Your body hums with a restless energy, the instinct to climb, to move with silent agility, frustrated by this rigid, vertical world. You observe the tiny, quick scuttles of rats in the gutters, their movements surprisingly bold, almost indifferent to your presence. In another time, another place, they might be an annoyance, a minor threat. Here, they are simply part of the scenery, too small to warrant your attention. Yet their survival speaks of a different kind of danger in these streets. You emerge onto a wider thoroughfare, the endless stream of people flowing around you like water around a stone. Your gaze flickers from face to face, a predator assessing its environment. You note the quick, furtive glances, the hunched shoulders, the way some hands clutch at worn satchels. There's a different kind of fear here, not the primal terror of the hunted, but a weary, everyday apprehension. You see no obvious signs of the unnatural, no glowing eyes in the darkness, no twisted limbs or unnatural pallor that would betray a demonic presence. Yet, a deep unease settles in your stomach. It's the absence of what you know that's most terrifying, the lack of a clear enemy. Your hands clench and unclench, a phantom weight of a whip or an axe lingering in your grasp. Each quick movement of a carriage, each sudden clang from a nearby workshop, makes your muscles tense, ready to parry, to evade, to strike. But there's nothing to strike at, nothing to engage. Your honed reflexes, once your greatest asset, now feel like an internal tremor, a perpetual readiness for a fight that never materializes. You are a weapon without a target, a hunter lost in a concrete maze where the prey are merely other humans, equally lost in their own concerns. The silence of your own weapon, the stillness of your purpose, is a heavier burden than any battle. You realize that a predator, without its hunt, is simply a wanderer. The gnawing ache in your stomach has sharpened from a dull throb to a persistent, insistent clawing. It's a familiar hunger, a sensation you've known after days on the trail, but now it's coupled with a profound vulnerability you haven't felt since childhood. Then a scent cuts through the pervasive urban grime, the sweet, earthy aroma of ripe apples, mingled with something yeasty and warm, like baking bread. It's a primal call, and you follow it, your steps quickening, with a sudden, desperate purpose. You find yourself at a makeshift stall, piled high with an abundance of produce that feels almost obscene after the barren landscapes you've traversed. Red apples gleam under the sputtering gaslight, oranges glow like miniature suns, and bunches of dark grapes hang heavy and inviting. A stout woman, her hands calloused and quick, haggles with a customer, her voice a sharp, rhythmic patter. She glances at you, her eyes lingering for a moment on your worn, dark clothing, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze before she dismisses you and turns back to her wares. You reach into a hidden pouch, a relic from your old life, and your fingers close around the single smooth disc you found earlier. A gold coin, heavy and intricately etched with symbols you barely recognize, but know to be of value. In your world, such a coin would command a small fortune, enough for a week's provisions, perhaps even a new weapon. You hold it out to the woman, offering it for an apple, your hands steady despite the tremors of hunger. She pauses, mid-transaction, her chatter dying. Her eyes narrow as she takes the coin, turning it over in her thick fingers. Her brow furrows, a deep crevice appearing between her eyes. She holds it up closer to the gaslight, inspecting it with a skepticism that turns almost to disdain. Then, with a curt shake of her head and a dismissive grunt, she pushes it back into your hand, her gaze flicking away as if you'd offered her something contaminated. She returns to her other customer, the exchange final, without explanation. The coin feels suddenly heavier, colder, utterly useless in your palm. It's an object of immense worth in one reality, completely meaningless in this one. The sweet scent of the fruit, moments ago a beacon of hope, now feels like a cruel taunt. You watch other hands exchange smaller, duller, copper-colored discs for their purchases, their transactions smooth and effortless. The chasm between what you possess and what you need feels vast, an invisible barrier far more formidable than any castle wall. You realize, with a bitter taste in your mouth, that surviving here isn't just about fighting monsters. It's about navigating an entirely new system of value, a silent, invisible battle where your greatest currency is now simply a meaningless weight. The hunger, a dull ember just hours ago, now rages, a hot, hollow cavern in your gut. It's a beast that demands feeding, overriding the cacophony of the city, muting the alien sights. Your journey through the indifferent crowds has brought you to the outskirts of what seems like a crumbling district, a place where the towering brick walls finally give way to neglected patches of earth. Here, the pervasive scent of coal and damp metal is subtly undercut by something greener, something wild. You pick your way through a narrow, overgrown path between two abandoned warehouses, the ground soft and yielding beneath your boots. The air here is cooler, cleaner, tasting faintly of rain and growing things. Your eyes, trained to spot hidden paths and secret passages, catch a splash of dark green amidst the tangled undergrowth near a crumbling stone wall. It's not a vibrant, cultivated green, but a resilient, almost defiant burst of life. You kneel, the rough fabric of your trousers scraping against nettles, a faint prickle on your skin. What you see are small, dark berries, clustered tightly on a low bush, partially obscured by larger, broad leaves. They are deep purple, almost black, glistening with dew. A memory stirs, faint and distant, of similar wild fruits found deep in forests, gathered in moments of desperation between battles. An old instinct takes over, overriding caution, pushing aside the fear of the unknown. You pluck a few of the berries, their skins surprisingly firm. They feel cool against your fingertips, a small, tangible piece of nature in this industrial sprawl. You bring one to your nose. It smells faintly sweet, like crushed earth and faint wine. With a hesitant, almost reverent motion, you pop it into your mouth. The taste explodes on your tongue. An initial tartness, a sharp, clean tang that makes your jaw ache, quickly followed by a burst of undeniable sweetness. It's wild and untamed, a flavor that speaks of sun and soil, of something grown free. The juice is thick, staining your tongue a dark, vivid purple. You chew slowly, savoring the texture, the tiny seeds popping gently between your teeth. This isn't the exotic, processed food of the city, nor the bland rations of a long campaign. This is primal, honest sustenance. As you swallow, a warmth spreads through your empty stomach, a small, profound relief. It's more than just the easing of hunger. It's a connection, a familiar echo from a world you thought was utterly lost. In that moment, with a taste of wild fruit on your tongue, you feel the earth beneath you, not as an alien surface, but as a source, a provider. You realize that even in this strange, unforgiving future, the ancient pulse of life, the fundamental promise of the earth, endures. And perhaps, so can you. A subtle shift in your tattered garments, a familiar resistance against your side as you lean against a damp brick wall snags your attention. Your fingers, calloused and quick, instinctively investigate. Beneath a worn flap of fabric, secured by a clasp you'd forgotten, your hand closes around a slender, coiled weight. It's a shock, a sudden jolt of recognition that sends a tremor through your arm. This isn't the crude metal of the city, nor the rough earth, but the smooth, well-oiled leather of your whip. You withdraw it, slowly, carefully, as if unveiling a sacred relic. The air in the narrow alley seems to hold its breath. The whip unfurls in your grasp, a dark, supple serpent uncoiling itself, its familiar braids and intricate patterns a stark contrast to the grimy industrial landscape around you. Its weight, perfectly balanced, settles in your hand with a profound sense of homecoming. Your grip tightens, your thumb tracing the worn, familiar texture of the handle, each groove a memory. With a motion born of countless battles, a reflex so ingrained it's part of your very bones, you test its length. The air around you cuts with a faint, almost imperceptible hiss as the leather slices through the space, a whisper of power. There's no grand swing, no devastating crack, just a controlled, fluid extension, the very sound of it, a comfort in the overwhelming cacophony of the city. It's a silent hum, a familiar song only you can truly hear, a counterpoint to the alien roar of this modern world. Your eyes, once scanning for lurking beasts, now regard the alley wall, the cluttered refuse, the distant glimmer of a gas lamp. You bring the whip back, then extend it again, not in anger, but in a precise, almost meditative dance. Each movement is a testament to years of training, a graceful articulation of brute force and refined skill. You feel the whip become an extension of your will, its tip brushing against a loose stone, flicking it away with effortless precision. For a fleeting moment, the oppressive concrete jungle fades. You are not a lost stranger in a strange land, but a hunter, potent and ready. The whip, once a tool for the annihilation of dark forces, now feels like a link, a lifeline to who you were, to the purpose that once defined you. It's a grounding force, a fragment of your true self, in a world that tries to strip you of everything familiar. But as the whip returns to its coiled state, the harsh reality of the grimy alley returns, and you're left with a profound question. What good is a perfect weapon when the enemy is everywhere and nowhere? A whisper in the wind, a shadow in the everyday light, instead of a tangible beast to confront. The comfort of the familiar is undeniable, but its true utility here remains a mystery. The whip, once a reassuring weight in your grasp, now feels almost like an accusation, a silent question against your side. Your muscles, honed over countless years for swift strikes and defensive parries, ache with an unfamiliar, restless energy. They feel coiled, primed for action, yet utterly without direction. Every shadow, every sudden rustle of discarded paper makes your shoulders tense, your grip involuntarily tighten on the familiar leather, ready to snap it out. But there's never a hulking zombie, never a leaping bat, never a spectral knight, just the mundane, the human, the harmless. You find yourself in a bustling market square, a whirl of sound and motion. The air is thick with the competing smells of roasting meat, fresh bread, and damp straw, all overlaid with the ever-present industrial tang. Merchants shout their wares, their voices raw and insistent. Children weave through legs, their laughter sharp and quick. Your eyes, trained to spot the vulnerable points of a monster, now dart across the faces of the crowd, searching for a tell, a weakness, a flicker of true malice. But you see only tired eyes, harried expressions, and the indifferent blankness of strangers. No fangs, no unnatural glow, no telltale signs of demonic possession. A small boy, no older than 7, trips and falls, scattering a handful of apples he was carrying. They roll across the grimy cobblestones, some disappearing under the hooves of a passing dray horse. His lip trembles, his eyes welling up with tears, a tiny, heartbreaking portrait of helplessness. Your first instinct is to scoop him up, to retrieve the fruit, to face down whatever brute caused his distress. But then you pause. A woman, likely his mother, rushes forward, her hand gentle on his shoulder, her voice a soft murmur. You realize your raw strength, your quick reflexes, would be clumsy here, an overreaction in a world that doesn't understand the simple brutality you're accustomed to. Your hands, so capable of destruction, feel useless, heavy. You clench your fists, the knuckles white beneath your skin. The power that defines you, the lineage that courses through your veins, feels like a burden. It's a storm contained within a teacup, an unspent energy that vibrates just beneath your skin. You see a man struggling to lift a heavy crate onto a cart, his face red with effort. You could easily hoist it with one arm, effortless, but to do so would draw unwanted attention, expose a strength that has no place in this polite, fragile world. Your ability to survive, to fight, seems ironically to make you stand out, to make you an anomaly. The quiet hum of your whip, the readiness of your body, once a source of comfort and purpose, now only amplify the sense of being an outsider. You are a finely tuned instrument, designed for a symphony of destruction, marooned in an orchestra playing a tune you don't recognize, where your unique talent is not just unwelcome, but actively disruptive. The true challenge, you realize, isn't finding a demon to fight, but finding a way to simply tooth in a world that has no need for the warrior you are. You carry a strength that currently has no home, and it weighs on you more than any armor. The pervasive damp chill of the alley deepens, pushing through your worn cloak. The air here feels heavier, stagnant, a mixture of forgotten rain, wet ash, and an undercurrent of something metallic and faintly sweet that pricks your throat. It's a smell from ancient crypts, where time seems to curdle. You press on, boots crunching on debris, drawn by an instinct you can't name. Gaslight from the main street barely penetrates, leaving the walls in oppressive gloom. Your eyes, accustomed to discerning detail in darkness, scan the grimy brickwork. Most is uniform, a monotonous testament to industry, but rounding a tight corner, your gaze locks onto something different. Embedded within a crumbling older section of the wall, almost lost beneath layers of soot and creeping moss, is a single block of finely carved stone. Not brick, but a dark, denser material, its surface revealing a faint, weathered relief. You lean closer, breath fogging. The carving depicts a stylized winged creature, half bat, half gargoyle, its features eroded. Its eyes, mere indentations, seem to stare out with familiar predatory malevolence. It's unmistakably Gothic, not the ornate flourishes of a modern church, but the stark, unsettling art of a bygone era. A shiver of profound recognition traces your spine. This isn't a simple decorative piece. It feels like a grotesque, a ward, a silent sentinel from a world you thought you'd left behind. You reach out, fingers brushing the cold, rough stone. The texture is ancient, deeply resonant, an echo of countless castle walls, forgotten fortresses. For a fleeting moment, the city's roar recedes. The damp alley transforms into a hidden passage, the air vibrating with unseen magic, the silent promise of a lurking threat. You can almost feel the presence of old power, dormant but not extinguished, a whisper of Dracula's dark influence, even here. Then, a sudden, sharp clatter from the street beyond breaks the trance. A metal bin overturned, perhaps by a scavenging dog. The illusion shatters. The grotesque is just a carving again, forgotten and ignored, lost in the grime of an indifferent metropolis. You pull your hand back, residue of cold stone on your fingertips. The world snaps back into focus, and the whip's weight feels heavier against your hip. Here, the echoes of your past are not clarion calls to battle, but faint, fading whispers, hidden in plain sight, waiting for an ear to truly listen, or perhaps for a darkness to reawaken them. The alley is a deep cut in the urban sprawl, barely illuminated by a distant gas lamp that throws long, dancing shadows. A cold wind snakes through, carrying the usual mix of damp earth and unseen grime. Suddenly, a sound. Not the mechanical clang of the city, but a sharp, rhythmic scratching, coming from a darkened recess across the narrow passage. It's too regular, too deliberate for a rat. It sounds like claws on stone, like something trying to break free. Your blood quickens, an ancient instinct flaring to life. Your hand drops to your side, closing around the familiar, cool leather of your whip. Your eyes narrow, piercing the gloom. You see movement now, a dark shape detaching itself from the wall, flitting erratically, silently, just at the edge of the gaslight's reach. It's too fast for a man, too agile for any mundane creature you've encountered in this strange new world. A bat, you think, a larger, more formidable variant, or perhaps one of Dracula's winged servants, venturing out even in this unfamiliar territory. You take a low, defensive stance, shifting your weight, muscles tensing. The scraping intensifies, accompanied by a faint, leathery flapping sound. The creature seems to be circling, preparing its attack. Every fiber of your being screams danger. This is it. This is the fight you've been waiting for. The familiar enemy in a land of unknown threats. Your breath hitches, held tight in your chest, ready to unleash a retaliatory strike, to send your whip snapping through the air. You calculate the trajectory, the force needed, the exact moment to strike. Then, the shape drifts closer to the flickering light, caught by a stray gust of wind. It's not a monstrous bat. It's a tattered scrap of canvas, perhaps a discarded shop sign, caught on a rusty nail. The rhythmic scratching? The coarse fabric rubbing against the rough brick wall. The leathery flapping? The canvas unfurling and catching the wind, its torn edges mimicking wings in the deceptive light. It pulls free with a final, louder scrape, fluttering down to settle harmlessly in a puddle. A sodden, mundane piece of rubbish. You stand there, whip half drawn, muscles locked, heart still pounding. The rush of adrenaline, so potent a moment ago, now recedes, leaving a hollow, faintly foolish feeling in its wake. The immediate threat dissolves into nothing, a phantom conjured by an overactive mind. by instincts honed for a different kind of darkness. You slowly release the whip, letting it settle back against your hip. The exhaustion of constantly being on guard, of seeing specters in every shadow, weighs heavily. It's a battle you fight not against monsters, but against your own warrior's mind, a mind that refuses to accept the mundane peace, a mind that is always, stubbornly, looking for the beast. It's a lonely fight, this one, against the ghosts of your own making. A cruel, sudden brightness pierces your eyelids even before you fully open them. It's not the gentle dawn you remember, nor the faint, watery light that sometimes filtered through castle windows. This is a fierce, almost aggressive brilliance, a physical force that presses against your very being. When you finally force your eyes open, a gasp catches in your throat. The world explodes into a blinding white, a searing pain behind your eyes that makes you instinctively flinch, pressing a hand to your brow. You stand at the mouth of an alley, abruptly exposed. The pervasive gray gloom of the city has vanished, replaced by a sky of shocking, pale blue, vast and unfiltered. Sunlight, thick and golden, pours down, washing over everything with an intensity that makes your vision swim. Every surface glares back at you. The cobbled street shimmers, the brick walls bounce the light, and even the distant, soot-stained buildings seem to prick your eyes with their unexpected sheen. You feel like a creature dragged from the deepest abyss, utterly unprepared for this assault. Your pupils, accustomed to expanding in perpetual twilight, now contract violently, aching with the effort. Tears well up, involuntary, blurring the already distorted landscape. You stumble a step back, seeking the familiar solace of shadow, but the alley behind you now seems an inadequate refuge, merely less bright, not truly dark. People walk past, their silhouettes crisp and defined against the blinding backdrop, but their faces are indistinct, lost in the overwhelming glare. They seem to move with effortless ease through this unbearable light, their eyes untroubled, their bodies unburdened by its weight. They don't squint, don't grimace, don't instinctively seek cover like you do. The air itself feels different under this sun. It's drier, carrying the sharp scent of dust motes, dancing in the brilliant beams, no longer the damp, heavy breath of the city. A strange lethargy begins to creep into your limbs, a desire to simply close your eyes and let the darkness claim you again. Your head throbs with a dull ache, a relentless pressure building behind your forehead, each pulse mirroring the relentless brilliance. Your skin, usually concealed and adapted to cooler temperatures, feels exposed, prickly, as if every pore is under scrutiny. You force yourself to move, each step tentative, your peripheral vision compromised, depth perception warped by the intense light. You are a shadow in reverse, defined by the stark absence of the darkness you crave. This isn't just light, it's an inescapable spotlight, revealing every worn stitch of your cloak, every tremor in your stance. The sun, a benign force to others, feels like another enemy to you, a relentless, all-seeing eye designed to strip you bare of your accustomed secrecy. You realize that true vulnerability isn't just about facing a monster without a weapon. It's about facing the world when your very senses are turned against you. And in this blinding day, you are utterly, profoundly exposed. The blinding assault of the sun still lingers behind your eyelids, a ghostly afterimage. Your skin feels raw, almost exposed, even beneath your heavy clothing. Every instinct screams for refuge, for the deep, embracing shadows that have always been your allies. The clamor of the main thoroughfares, once merely alien, now feels hostile, amplified by the searing light. You pull your cloak tighter, hunching your shoulders, instinctively seeking to diminish your form, to become less visible. You begin to move with a renewed, urgent purpose. not toward any destination, but away from the relentless brightness. Your eyes, still aching, dart along the sides of the street, searching for any break in the monotonous facades. You duck into the first narrow gap you find, a shadowed alley that promises a respite, however brief. The air here immediately cools, thick with the familiar smell of damp stone, dust, and something earthy, less metallic than the main street. It's a relief that washes over you, a physical easing of tension in your brow and shoulders. The gloom deepens as you move further in, a welcome balm to your protesting eyes. Here, the distant city roar becomes a muffled hum, a distant, harmless beast. You lean against a grimy brick wall, its rough surface cool against your cheek. The shadows here are not the profound, ancient darkness of a forgotten crypt, nor the deep, velvet black of a moonless forest. Instead, it's a murky, polluted gloom, thick with the grime of human industry, pierced occasionally by weak yellowish flickers from the gaps in the buildings above. It's an artificial darkness, a manufactured night that still feels more hospitable than the glaring day. You find yourself observing the small, subtle details that emerge in this dimness. The way a spiderweb, almost invisible in the sun, now shimmers faintly with collected moisture, the soft, quick scuttle of unseen creatures in the refuse. The faint, sweet smell of decay from an overflowing barrel. This is a darkness you can almost understand, a place where hidden things might lurk, even if they aren't the grotesque horrors you're used to. It's a place where your senses, accustomed to the subtlety of low light, finally find a purchase. A figure emerges from the far end of the alley, a man, his face gaunt, his clothes threadbare. He glances at you, his eyes lingering on your shadowed form, on your unusual attire. There's a flicker of recognition, not of who you are, but of what you are. A fellow inhabitant of the fringes, a creature of the shadows. He offers a quick, almost imperceptible nod, a shared understanding without a single word. You nod back, a strange, quiet communion in the artificial gloom. This engineered night, this grimy refuge, feels more like home than any sun-drenched street. You realize that even in this utterly alien world, the deepest shadows still offer a familiar kind of solace, a space where an anachronism like you can breathe, even if it's only for a moment, and feel less alone in your stark otherness. A cloying, sweet aroma, chemically precise and undeniably artificial, assaults your nostrils as you pass an open doorway. It's unlike anything you've ever smelled, not the rich earthiness of baking bread, nor the sharp tang of curing meats. This is an engineered sweetness, pervasive and almost aggressive, mingled with the faint, cold scent of something akin to treated paper and hard plastic. Your hunger, ever present, tugs you inside, a morbid curiosity overriding your caution. You step into a cramped space, brighter than the alley, lit by a stark, unwavering yellow light from above. Every surface gleams, spotless and unnaturally clean. Your eyes, still adjusting from the dim exterior, are immediately overwhelmed by a riot of color. Shelves packed from floor to ceiling display countless objects, each encased in thin, glossy coverings that reflect the harsh light. Bright reds, shocking blues, vivid greens, colors you rarely see in nature, certainly not on anything edible. Each item is identical to the next, perfectly shaped, uniformly sized. There's no natural variation, no sign of the sun's work, no hint of the earth. You watch as a young woman, her movements quick and efficient, reaches for one of these brightly wrapped things. With a crisp, tearing sound, she unwraps a small, rectangular block of what appears to be cake, its surface a uniform, impossible brown. She eats it quickly, without a second thought, her expression devoid of the reverence you'd expect for sustenance. You see others doing the same, exchanging dull metal discs for these colorful, silent offerings. It's a silent, rapid ritual you cannot comprehend. Driven by the persistent gnawing in your stomach and a desperate need to understand, you mimic her. You pick up a similar, smaller package, a brittle crinkle echoing through the quiet space. The wrapping peels away with an unnerving ease, revealing a flat, circular wafer, unnaturally pale, dotted with tiny, perfect brown pieces. It feels impossibly light, almost fragile in your calloused fingers. You bring it to your nose. The engineered sweetness intensifies, a sugary assault that makes your sinuses ache. With a deep breath, you bite into it. The texture is a surprise, an immediate, almost violent crunch, followed by a dry, dissolving powder that coats your tongue. The taste is an explosion of intense, pure sugar, far sweeter than any wild fruit, mixed with that same odd, chemical tang. It floods your mouth, overwhelming your senses, leaving no room for nuance or depth. There's a faint, cloying aftertaste, like ash mixed with burnt syrup, that lingers long after you've swallowed. It fills the space in your stomach, but leaves your body feeling confused, unsatisfied. This isn't food of the earth, not of blood or soil. This is a manufactured dream of sustenance, a plastic feast that tricks the body but fails the spirit. You realize, with a heavy sigh, that even hunger itself has been reshaped in this strange new world. The cloying, artificial sweetness from the wafer still clings to the back of your throat, a dry, persistent film that refuses to be washed away. It's a phantom taste, a memory of something that filled your stomach but left your body strangely unfulfilled. You stand amidst the stark, humming aisles, the bright packaging a dizzying array, and a different kind of hunger begins to churn within you. Not for food, but for authenticity. Suddenly, your mind conjures a different flavor, sharp and immediate, pushing through the synthetic aftertaste. You can almost feel the weight of it, the warmth in your hand. A piece of game, perhaps a rabbit or a wild fowl, roasted over a crackling fire. The scent of pine smoke, mingled with sizzling fat and savory herbs, fills your nostrils, potent and real. You remember the rough texture of the meat, still warm from the spit, yielding under your teeth with a satisfying tear. The rich, earthy juices, tasting of the forest and honest effort, would have dripped onto your calloused fingers. You see the scene, clear as day. A small, flickering campfire, the quiet murmur of the wind through ancient trees, the stars a vast, familiar blanket overhead. No harsh, unwavering yellow light, no incessant mechanical hum, just the rhythmic dance of the flames, the comforting warmth on your face. You remember the simple, rough bread, perhaps baked quickly on a hot stone, its yeasty aroma, a promise of substance, its uneven crust, a testament to honest craft. You would have broken it yourself, feeling the sturdy resistance, then dipping it into the rich drippings of the cooked meat. Each bite in that memory was a communion, a direct link to the hunt, the land, the very struggle for survival. It was food that tasted of life, of blood and earth and fire, restoring not just your physical strength, but a deeper sense of belonging. The berries you found in the overgrown patch earlier, wild and tart, offered a brief echo of that, a raw, untamed flavor in this strange, controlled world. But the food here, in these gleaming, impersonal places, is devoid of such echoes. It offers no story, no challenge, no connection to the vital pulse of existence. You run your tongue over your teeth, trying to dislodge the lingering, artificial sweetness, a futile gesture. The plastic feast has settled in your gut, a heavy, inert mass. You yearn for the wildness, for the true tang of game, for the satisfying grit of honest bread, for the simple, profound satisfaction of a meal earned and cooked by your own hands over an open flame. It's a yearning not just for calories, but for a memory, for a fundamental connection to the world you knew, a ghost of simple meals and wild game that haunts you in this modern, artificial landscape. Your body is nourished, yes, but your spirit feels hollow, longing for the taste of a forgotten truth. The endless, grinding drone of the city has woven itself into the very fabric of the air, a constant, oppressive presence that feels less like sound and more like a physical vibration against your eardrums. It's not the sharp, distinct cries of monsters, nor the clanging of swords you're accustomed to. This is a low, persistent hum, 1,000 indistinguishable noises blending into one suffocating roar. You find yourself walking, head slightly tilted, trying to filter, to discern, to make sense of the auditory chaos. But your hunter's ears, once so precise, are now a liability. The metallic screech of an unseen carriage somewhere down the street slices through the drone, a jagged line of pure agony that makes your teeth ache and your eyes water. You flinch, your body recoiling, a reflex born of anticipating a direct attack. But the people around you barely react. A few shiver, some glance upward with a sigh, but they continue their hurried pace, seemingly immune to this sonic assault. You watch them, a knot tightening in your stomach, observing their ease in this unbearable din. How can they bear it? How can they even think? The air carries a mixture of distant engine thrums, the rhythmic clatter of countless hooves and wheels on cobblestones, and a ceaseless, indistinct murmur of human voices, none of them clear enough to understand. All of them adding to the oppressive wall of sound. Your temples throb, a steady drumbeat against the inside of your skull. You feel the constant urge to clap your hands over your ears, to shut out the relentless onslaught, but you resist, knowing such a public display would only draw unwanted attention. Your senses, usually keen and focused, are now scattered, unable to pinpoint a single threat, a single whisper of danger. Every rustle of clothing, every creak of a distant door, every murmur from a passing stranger becomes another indistinguishable thread in this monstrous tapestry of noise. It leaves you feeling vulnerable, stripped of your primary defense, the ability to hear an enemy before you see it. The absence of true silence, the lack of any quiet refuge, is a torment. You crave the profound stillness of an ancient forest, the echoing vastness of a deserted castle, where every stone falling, every breath of wind, carried meaning. Here, meaning is lost. You press on, the constant hum dulling your thoughts, blurring the edges of your perception. You feel a profound weariness settle in your bones, a fatigue born not of physical exertion, but of the relentless assault on your mind. This is a silent war, fought not with blades and whips, but with an endless, invisible wave of sound. And in this battle, your greatest strength, your acute hearing, has become your most crushing weakness, a constant reminder that you are a stranger, utterly unsuited for the relentless, cacophonous symphony of this modern world. The relentless drone of the city has burrowed deep into your skull, a persistent, throbbing ache that makes your teeth clench. It's a physical weight, pressing on your temples, vibrating behind your eyes. Your ears ring with an unnatural frequency, a phantom echo of 1,000 clangs and shouts, even in moments where the immediate noise lessens. Your hunter's instincts, accustomed to tracking the softest rustle of leaves, or the faint, distant moan of a creature, are utterly useless here, overwhelmed by the sheer, unending volume. You long for the profound quiet of a forgotten crypt, the vast, echoing silence of a mountain peak, or even the desolate stillness that falls after a hard-fought battle, a moment to simply hear your own thoughts. You find yourself in a small, enclosed courtyard, tucked between towering buildings. Here, the immediate clamor of carriages and street vendors is somewhat muffled, softened to a dull roar. The air, though still carrying the pervasive scent of coal and damp stone, seems to hold less of the sharp metallic tang of the main thoroughfares. You lean against a wall, eyes closed for a moment, trying to coax your mind into a semblance of peace. But even here, the silence is an illusion. A high-pitched whine cuts through the muted background, persistent and thin, coming from an open window above. It's followed by a rhythmic thumping, like a heavy heartbeat, from within one of the surrounding buildings. Then, a sharp, repetitive scraping from an unseen workshop somewhere nearby. Each sound, though individually small, contributes to a ceaseless, fragmented symphony of artificiality. There's no natural rhythm, no ebb and flow, just a constant, maddening assault on your ears, preventing any true internal stillness. You open your eyes, a sigh escaping your lips. You see a woman sitting on a nearby bench, reading a newspaper, completely absorbed. Children play with a wooden hoop, their laughter bright and unrestrained. They seem utterly oblivious to the underlying din, their focus unbroken. You watch them, a profound sense of isolation washing over you. Their world has adapted to this constant noise, absorbed it into their very being, while your ancient senses reject it, leaving you frayed and exhausted. Your mind, once sharp and clear, feels muddied, as if constantly sifting through grit. The craving for absolute silence is a physical hunger, a gnawing emptiness that no food can fill. You press the heels of your hands against your ears, a desperate, futile attempt to block out the world, to find even a fleeting moment of that deep, ancestral quiet. The muffled thrumming only intensifies, a pressure from within. You realize, with a heavy heart, that true silence is a luxury in this new age, a forgotten art, and without it, your mind struggles to find its center, to connect with the quiet strength that has always guided you. In this relentless hum, you are not just lost in a physical space, but lost within your own cacophonous thoughts. The sheer press of bodies is a suffocating blanket, a constant brushing contact that makes your skin crawl. You are caught in a river of humanity, propelled forward by an unseen current, jostled and nudged from all sides. The air is thick with the mingled scent of unwashed wool, damp earth carried on countless boots, and an underlying, persistent human odor that is both cloying and impersonal. Your hunter's instincts scream for space, for the freedom to move, to react, but there is none. You are an eddy in a vast, indifferent stream. Your eyes, usually so quick to identify individuals, now swim in a sea of faces. They pass by in an endless blur, pale, ruddy, furrowed with concern, blank with exhaustion. Each one distinct, yet all blending into a terrifying sameness. No single face stands out as a threat, or a friend, or even a recognizable adversary. Just a relentless tide of fleeting expressions, none of them truly meeting your gaze. You try to focus, to find a pattern, a common thread, but it's like trying to grasp smoke. A woman, bundled in a dark shawl, jostles past, her shoulder hard against yours. Her eyes, briefly catching yours, are wide and startled, a flash of fear before she quickly averts her gaze and hurries on. You feel a pang, an ancient impulse to apologize, to make amends for a transgression you don't fully understand. But there's no space, no time, no shared language for such an exchange. She's gone, swallowed by the throng, another anonymous face in the endless stream. You find yourself observing the quick, furtive gestures of hands, the subtle shifts of bodies, as people navigate the crush. There's an unspoken rhythm to their movement, a shared understanding of how to exist in such close proximity, an unspoken etiquette you are desperately trying to learn. You feel clumsy, stiff, like a lumbering beast amidst nimble deer. Your strength, your speed, your years of training in solitary combat are utterly useless here. Instead, you are forced to surrender, to flow with the current, to let yourself be carried along, a passive observer, in your own involuntary journey. The constant low roar of 1,000 indistinguishable conversations, interspersed with the clatter of carts and the shouts of vendors, forms an impenetrable wall of sound. You feel a strange kind of invisibility settle upon you, a profound anonymity. You could shout, you could scream, you could unleash the power that courses through your veins, and it would likely be absorbed, dismissed, or simply drowned out by the sheer, indifferent volume of this human tide. You are a single, lost drop in an ocean of faces, and the realization is colder than any tomb. Here, the absence of a visible enemy is replaced by the overwhelming, suffocating presence of everyone. The endless river of faces continues to flow around you, a constant brushing contact that makes the skin beneath your heavy cloak prickle. Your hunter's gaze, accustomed to dissecting a monster's stance or a zombie's lumbering gait for weakness, now attempts to decipher the bewildering ballet of human interaction. Each face is a fleeting tableau, a fleeting expression of something you can't quite grasp. You watch two men standing near a cart laden with goods. Their voices rise in sharp, rapid bursts, their hands gesturing emphatically, almost violently. In your world, such an exchange would quickly escalate to blades or fists. Your muscles tense, ready to intervene, to assess the immediate threat. But then, one man throws his head back, a booming sound escaping his throat. Laughter, you realize, though it sounds more like a strange, relieved bark. The other claps him roughly on the shoulder, a gesture that seems both aggressive and amicable. They then turn and walk away, unbloodied, their confrontation dissolving into mere noise, leaving you baffled. Further on, a young woman drapes her arm around an older man, leaning into him with an ease that suggests deep trust. She whispers something, and he smiles, a gentle, knowing crinkle around his eyes. It's a tenderness you rarely witnessed outside of a mother with her child, or perhaps a knight with his cherished, fragile family. But it's offered so openly, so casually, in this swirling, indifferent crowd. It feels vulnerable, almost reckless, to display such connection without the constant vigilance you deem necessary for survival. You scan their periphery, instinctively searching for the opportunist, the lurking threat that such open displays would attract in your world. But there is nothing. Just the endless flow of people, seemingly unconcerned. Their eyes, when they meet yours briefly, hold a startling array of emotions. Quick suspicion, hurried indifference, a flash of fleeting curiosity at your archaic garb, but rarely outright hostility. It's not the calculating hunger of a beast, nor the vacant stare of the undead. It's a complex, shifting landscape of subtle social cues you simply don't possess the map for. You see them exchange small, weighted glances, or offer almost imperceptible nods, communicating entire volumes without a single word you understand. It's a language of posture, of expression, of shared history, that you are completely deaf to. Your internal compass for danger, finely tuned to the unnatural, spins wildly in this human labyrinth. The true threats here are not monstrous, but elusive. They are woven into the very fabric of their interactions, in their unspoken rules, in their bewildering exchanges of perceived value. You are a predator in a landscape where the prey acts in ways you cannot comprehend, where the greatest danger isn't a visible monster, but the silent, unseen currents of human society. You realize that understanding this new breed of humanity, deciphering their alien landscape of emotions and motives, is a far more intricate, perhaps even more dangerous hunt than any you have ever known. The biting cold of the night air outside is replaced by a different chill inside. The penetrating cold of aged metal that seeps through your worn garments as you settle onto a hard, narrow bench. The surface is smooth, strangely unyielding, far different from the rough wood of a tavern bench or the damp stone of a crypt. It feels alien beneath you, yet offers a peculiar sense of stability. The air itself is thick, a stale mixture of damp wool, lamp oil, and the faint, unsettling odor of too many confined bodies. It prickles the inside of your nose, heavy and unwelcome. This wheeled contraption, they call it an omnibus, lurches forward with a sudden, jarring jolt. A low rumble starts beneath your feet, a constant, vibrating tremor that makes your teeth ache. It's accompanied by the rhythmic clatter of unseen hooves and the heavy creak of wooden wheels, a different kind of mechanical pulse from the massive, smoky trains. You press your hand against the window, the glass cool and faintly greasy against your palm, and watch the city lights blur into streaks of orange and yellow. They zip past, a bewildering tapestry of artificial brightness, offering no discernible landmarks, only a fleeting glimpse of a world rushing by. Other figures share this confined space. They sit hunched, their faces dim in the flickering interior light, mostly silent. Their gazes are averted, either fixed blankly ahead or occasionally flicking towards you, lingering on your anachronistic attire before quickly retreating. You observe their subtle movements, the way a woman clutches her small purse, the restless fidgeting of a young man, the heavy, almost mournful sigh of an older gentleman. There's a shared weariness in their stillness, a quiet resignation to this impersonal journey. You feel your own cloak, heavy and dark, a stark contrast to their muted, tailored fabrics, making you feel more exposed, more out of place than ever. The omnibus jolts again, swaying around a corner, throwing you subtly off balance. Your hand instinctively grips the edge of the seat, ready to brace, ready to react. But there's no enemy, no collapsing floor, no swinging axe, just the indifferent momentum of the vehicle, carrying you through unfamiliar streets, past anonymous buildings. You are a captive of its path, a passenger in a journey whose destination is as unknown to you as its purpose. You stare out into the fleeting darkness, pierced by the relentless, bobbing gaslights. The sensation of being carried, without your own will or direction, is deeply unsettling. It's a strange, shared solitude, sitting among these quiet, weary strangers, each lost in their own thoughts, all propelled by this rumbling, metal beast. You realize that even in such close proximity, surrounded by fellow humans, you can feel utterly, profoundly alone, a ghost of a past era, riding a cold metal current into a future you can barely comprehend. The ceaseless rumbling of the omnibus has become a part of you, a low thrum that vibrates up from the cold metal seat, through your bones and into your very skull. It's a constant, dizzying motion, carrying you through a bewildering tapestry of flickering gaslight and deep shadow, yet it brings no sense of progress, no feeling of purpose. Your cloak, heavy and dark, feels less like a shield and more like a shroud, an insulating layer that separates you not only from the biting night air, but also from the sparse figures sharing this confined space. You watch them, these other passengers, in the dim, swaying light. Each one seems contained within their own quiet world, eyes fixed on an unseen point beyond the grimy windows, or lost in the shadows of their own thoughts. A young woman traces patterns on the frosted glass, her expression distant, melancholic. An old man stares straight ahead, his jaw slack, his breath fogging the air in short, rhythmic puffs. They are bodies in motion, but their spirits seem still, adrift in an unspoken solitude, mirroring your own. There's a shared emptiness in their presence, a collective detachment that intensifies your feeling of being utterly alone. The windows, streaked with rain and grime, offer only fragmented glimpses of the world outside. Lights blur into elongated smears, buildings flash past as formless dark masses. It's a landscape that refuses to reveal itself, a journey without landmarks. You press your forehead against the cool glass, seeking some connection, some anchor in the fleeting chaos, but find none. The cold seeps into your skin, a reminder of the physical separation between you and the swirling, indifferent city. Your breath fogs the glass, a momentary, ephemeral proof of your existence, quickly wiped away by the lurching motion. Your mind drifts, comparing this aimless propulsion to the purposeful journeys of your past. Then, every step, every ride had a clear objective. A castle to breach, a demon to confront, a path to be traversed with unwavering intent. The solitude was a choice, a necessary burden for the task at hand. Here the solitude is imposed, a consequence of your difference, of a world that has no need for your ancient purpose. You are moving, yes, but you are not going anywhere, not in the way you understand it. The rumble deepens, and the omnibus slows with a protesting groan, pulling to a halt. A passenger rises, a shadowy figure, and steps out into the rain-slicked street, disappearing without a word or a glance. You watch them go, a pang of something akin to envy stirring within you. They have a destination, a place to return. Even in this vast, incomprehensible city, you remain, a silent observer in a metal box carried onward, and the understanding settles heavy in your chest. This loneliness in motion, this endless drifting without true purpose, is perhaps the most draining battle of all. A sudden, profound quiet envelops you as you step through the grand, arching doorway. It's not the damp, earthy silence of a forgotten crypt, but a hushed, cultivated stillness, broken only by the soft, shuffling sounds of distant feet and the almost imperceptible murmur of hushed voices. The air is cool, dry, carrying a faint, clean scent of polished wood, old paper, and something metallic, like ancient rust carefully contained. It's a stark, almost shocking contrast to the relentless clamor of the streets outside, a balm to your assaulted ears. You find yourself in a vast, echoing hall, its high ceilings lost in shadow, its walls lined with rows of imposing display cases. The light here is soft, diffused, a gentle glow emanating from hidden sources, illuminating objects arranged with meticulous precision. Your eyes, accustomed to seeking out movement and shadow, now scan these inert forms, slowly, almost reverently. This place is a shrine to the past, a silent repository of forgotten lives. You move deeper, drawn by a primal instinct, your footsteps unnaturally loud on the smooth, cold stone floor. Ahead, a collection of steel. Suits of armor stand sentinel behind gleaming glass, their metal surfaces dulled by time, yet still retaining an imposing presence. You trace the familiar contours of a gauntlet with your gaze. Imagine the weight of the chest plate, the restrictive embrace of the helmet. These are not props or costumes. They are the shells of warriors, silent witnesses to a different era. Your fingers clench, remembering the feel of cold steel against your own skin, the clang of impact, the sheer physical struggle of battle. Here, they are merely displays, frozen in time, their purpose long forgotten by those who now observe them. Then, you see it. In a smaller, more intimate case, nestled on a bed of dark velvet, lies a weapon. Not a whip, not exactly, but a bladed chain, its segments intricately forged, its handle wrapped in dark, worn leather. It's a variant, an older ancestor of the weapons. You know, a tool for precise, brutal efficiency. The metal gleams under the soft light, hinting at a sharp edge, yet it is utterly still, inert, a relic. Other patrons glance at it with detached curiosity, perhaps reading a small plaque that details its age and origin. They see history. You see a life, a purpose, a familiar song of steel and bone. You press your face closer to the glass, a faint coldness against your brow. You can almost feel the phantom weight in your hands, the controlled violence in its swing. This weapon, so potent, so alive in your memory, is here reduced to an object of quiet observation, an exhibit. It's a profound jolt, a physical ache in your chest. To them, it's a curiosity. To you, it's a living breath from your past, now encased, silent, and rendered impotent. The greatest irony you realize is that you are now a living relic yourself, walking among the ghosts of your own history, a warrior in a museum dedicated to a war that, to this world, is long since over. The bladed chain weapon, locked behind its gleaming glass prison, feels like a physical pull on your very blood. You press closer, your breath fogging the barrier, your hand instinctively hovering, a phantom echo of a grip that isn't there. You see the faint nicks on the hilt, the subtle warping of the metal from countless impacts, signs of a life lived in brutal service. This isn't just a relic. It's a testament, a whisper across centuries of a lineage, a shared purpose. You can almost feel the leather warm beneath your palm, the weight of the chain as it arcs through the air, the brutal precision of its bite. Around it, other objects of war lie in silent repose, intricate crossbows whose strings would sing with death, daggers honed for swift, silent ends, pieces of armor etched with crests you recognize as ancient houses, long fallen or forgotten. These are not merely artifacts to you. They are echoes of your ancestors, tools of their unending battle, extensions of their will. You are connected to them, intricately woven into this tapestry of steel and stone, a living thread in a history that these walls declare to be finished. The air in the display case, stagnant and preserved, feels like the very breath of a forgotten era. Other visitors shuffle past, their conversations a low hum. They glance at the chain, at the armor, with a detached curiosity, perhaps reading the small plaques that describe their historical significance, their material composition. They point, they murmur, they move on. They see iron, leather, and wood. They see objects of a distant past. They do not see the sweat, the blood, the desperate courage, the relentless pursuit of evil these tools represent. They do not feel the phantom weight of a battle axe, nor the silent hum of a whip cutting through the night air. They see history. You try, 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 try. A profound, chilling realization settles in your gut. Your existence, your very being, steeped in the unending war against darkness, is here presented as a curiosity, a relic for polite observation. You are a warrior in a museum dedicated to the very wars you still live. Your strength, your purpose, the very essence of your lineage, has been relegated to a quiet display behind glass, an object to be admired, but never again truly wielded. It's a strange, bitter irony. You slowly pull back from the case, the polished glass reflecting your own dark, anachronistic figure. You are the last, perhaps, of a line that once burned bright, and now, even the tools of that fire are considered cold. The modern world has no need for your kind of guardian. The monsters, perhaps, still lurk, but their forms have changed, their threats unseen by these unseeing eyes. You carry the legacy of your family in your blood, in your muscles, in the familiar weight of your own concealed whip, but you are a living ghost, a hunter whose hunt has been declared over by a world that has simply forgotten how to see the darkness. This silence, the silence of irrelevance, is heavier than any chains. The heavy, ornate wooden door groans shut behind you, instantly muffling the relentless clamor of the city. A profound quiet descends, a palpable presence that presses against your eardrums, almost stinging after the cacophony outside. The air immediately shifts, growing colder, carrying a distinct aroma of ancient stone, beeswax, and faint, sweet incense, a scent that speaks of countless centuries and forgotten rituals. It's a clean, almost sanctified cold, seeping into your bones, different from the damp grime of the alleys or the metallic chill of the omnibus. You stand at the threshold of a vast, echoing space. High above, vaulted ceilings disappear into a dim, unreachable gloom, supported by massive stone pillars that seem to stretch endlessly upwards. Stained glass windows, rich with jewel-toned images of saints and ethereal figures, filter the outside light into soft, colored pools on the worn flagstones. It's an overwhelming display of human craft and devotion, a stark contrast to the utilitarian brick and iron of the modern city. This place feels alive with a different kind of energy, a silent, enduring power. Your eyes trace the familiar contours of a large, carved crucifix, its form stark against a distant wall. It's a symbol you recognize, one intrinsically linked to your lineage, to the very purpose that courses through your blood. Here, it stands as a focal point, radiating a quiet, unwavering strength. You feel a familiar resonance in the presence of such faith, a counterpoint to the darkness you've always fought. The ground beneath your boots, smooth and cold, vibrates with a silent history, a subtle hum of countless prayers and ancient ceremonies. A few scattered figures are present, silent and still. A woman kneels in a pew, head bowed, her lips moving in a barely audible whisper. A man sits, hands clasped, his gaze fixed on some unseen point of reflection. They seem utterly lost in their own communion, oblivious to your presence, to your strange attire, to the whip hidden beneath your cloak. Their reverence is a strange, quiet force, an expression of something primal and enduring. You note the almost imperceptible shiver that runs through the air, a spiritual chill that is more than just temperature, a lingering aura of old faith that feels both familiar and deeply alien in this bewildering new age. You walk slowly, deliberately, the sound of your own footsteps, a sacrilege in the hushed expanse. Each echo seems to carry the weight of generations, of a devotion that has shaped worlds. This isn't just a building, it's a conduit, a repository of beliefs that once held sway over vast empires. The power here is quiet, yet undeniably present, a profound stillness that allows your mind to briefly shed the clamor of the city. You realize that even as the world rushes forward, inventing new machines and new ways of life, some ancient forces, both light and shadow, continue to endure, waiting, silent, for their time to rise again. And in this sacred chill you feel a faint, undeniable echo of your own purpose. The lingering scent of frankincense, sharp and ancient, mingles with the cold dampness of the stone, a perfume of ages, thick with centuries of faith. Your gaze settles on the towering crucifix at the altar, its stark wooden form casting a long, unwavering shadow in the filtered stained glass light. It's a familiar sight, one etched into your very being, but here, in this vast, quiet hall, it feels different, not less potent, but perhaps less understood. You know the power held within such a symbol. You've seen its light banish darkness, its form repel unholy creatures, its mere presence offer sanctuary from malevolent forces that seek to corrupt and destroy. You can almost feel the faint hum of sacred energy emanating from it, a silent song of protection, a beacon against the true, lurking evils of the world. Your hand instinctively reaches for the cross, the small, ornate one you keep tucked beneath your worn garments, a constant, cool weight against your skin. You feel its familiar texture, the smooth, carved wood, the silent promise of divine intervention, of a connection to a higher, purer force. But then you observe the other people. They glance at the towering crucifix, some with a quiet reverence, some with a casual acknowledgement, their expressions serene or contemplative. They genuflect in the pews. They murmur soft words. They light small, flickering candles that dot the shadows. But there's no visible fear in their eyes, no desperate plea for salvation from tangible, encroaching horrors. To them, it's a symbol of comfort, of tradition, of hope, in the face of abstract sorrow. To you, it's a weapon, a shield, a conduit for raw spiritual power against literal beasts. And that difference feels like a chasm, separating your world from theirs. Your world was one where faith was a palpable force against a visible, terrifying enemy. Here, the faith seems polite, contained, almost a decoration for a world that believes itself safe from such ancient wicked things. You carry this potent symbol, a weapon against evils these people no longer truly believe in, or perhaps have simply forgotten how to see. Your knowledge, your purpose, the very sacred objects of your calling, become silent, almost invisible, in this new secular landscape. The cross still hums with power for you, a silent reassurance against the darkness that you know exists. But for them it's a quiet decoration, and that disconnect, that profound misunderstanding, is a heavy weight, a burden upon your spirit. The silence in this hallowed place, once a profound comfort, now feels heavy, almost lonely. You realize the true battle might not be against a demon's fangs, but against the insidious apathy of a world that no longer needs its guardians. Or, perhaps, no longer understands the very darkness you were born to fight. The cross is still potent, but its burden is now your own, a private knowledge in a world that has simply moved on, leaving you and your ancient fight behind. A sharp, pervasive scent, utterly alien and intensely clinical, assaults your nostrils. It's not the sweet decay of a monster's lair, nor the pungent tang of ancient blood. This is a cold, piercing aroma, like iron and strange herbs boiled together, mixed with something faintly metallic and unsettlingly clean. It makes your eyes water, a chemical sting that forces you to pull your tattered cloak higher over your face, a futile barrier against this invisible assault. A low, persistent murmur of hushed voices and soft, hurried footsteps echoes in the background, a new kind of quiet cacophony. You find yourself in a wide, sterile corridor, its walls painted a uniform, pale green, its floor gleaming with an unnatural sheen. Doors line both sides, heavy and identical, each bearing a small, cryptic metal plate. The light here is stark, unwavering, a harsh yellow-white glow that casts no comforting shadows, illuminating every detail with an unforgiving clarity. It's a place designed to be clean, to banish all trace of nature, of life and death, and that very cleanliness feels unnatural, unsettling. Through a half-open door you catch a glimpse of an inner room. A woman lies pale and still on a high, narrow cot, her face stark against a white pillow. Her skin has the translucent quality of a ghost. Beside her, a man in a crisp white coat bends, holding a small metallic instrument to her chest. His movements are precise, clinical, devoid of the emotional urgency you'd expect from a healer. He speaks in low, rapid tones, using words you cannot fathom, to another figure in white who scribbles on a parchment with a hurried, sharp scratch. You watch, a growing unease settling in your stomach. In your world, illness was often a curse, a demonic affliction, or the swift, brutal consequence of battle. Healers, though rare and revered, worked with poultices of mud and herbs, with sacred incantations and the raw power of nature. Here, the approach is different. It's cold, detached, almost mechanical. The air, despite its sterile scent, feels thick with unseen suffering. Yet there's no wailing, no desperate pleas, just this hushed, efficient despair. You press a hand against the cool, smooth wall, the texture alien beneath your touch. This is a place where new battles are fought, battles against unseen enemies, maladies that do not bleed or shriek, but rather waste away the body from within. Your knowledge, your strength, your whip, they are useless here. You are a warrior in a world that fights its sickness with sterile tools and strange elixirs, a world that has replaced the visible, raging demon with an invisible, insidious invader. The silence of their suffering is profound, and the realization that your ancient skills have no place in this new kind of warfare is a chilling, humbling blow. The pervasive, chemical tang from the sterile building still clings to your cloak, an unsettling residue. But as you step back into the narrow street, it's quickly overwhelmed by a different kind of scent. The familiar damp earth and coal smoke, now laced with a faint metallic bitterness, like old rust mixed with something acrid and burnt. It stings your lungs, a phantom fire, making your breath catch. This isn't the clean air of the countryside, nor the rich, damp atmosphere of a thriving village. This is the very breath of the city, and it feels poisoned. You see a group of children playing in a gutter, their faces smudged with soot, their clothes ragged and thin. Their laughter is sharp, almost desperate, but interspersed with bouts of hacking coughs, tiny, rasping sounds that tear at your ears. They seem frail, their movements lacking the robust energy of healthy youth. You watch them, your gaze searching for the obvious signs of demonic influence, for the telltale pallor or twisted limbs that would signify a ghoul's touch. But there is none, just the raw, undeniable evidence of their struggle, a silent battle etched into their small, grimy faces. Their suffering is not the result of a vampire's bite, but something slower, more insidious, an evil that takes no single form. Further down the street, near the dark, gaping maw of what appears to be a factory entrance, men shuffle out, their shoulders slumped, their eyes vacant. Their faces are grim, etched with a weariness that goes beyond simple exhaustion, a deep-seated fatigue that seems to sap their very spirit. Their hands, gnarled and stained, bear no sword calluses, but the marks of relentless, repetitive toil. They are not mindless zombies, yet they move with a similar, somnambulant apathy, their vitality drained by an unseen force. Your hand instinctively goes to the whip, a reflex to defend against encroaching despair, but it feels absurd, pointless. How do you strike at a thing that drains the life from men, not with fangs, but with monotonous labor and endless grime? The low rumble of the distant machines is a constant, suffocating presence, a rhythmic pulse that feels less like work and more like a slow, inexorable grinding down of life. This is the new evil you realize with a chilling clarity. Not the grotesque monsters that rise from tombs, but the unseen forces that corrupt the air, that steal the light from children's eyes, that hollow out the souls of men with endless, thankless labor. It's a diffuse, pervasive darkness, woven into the very fabric of this modern existence, far harder to pinpoint, far more insidious to fight. You stand there, a warrior trained for tangible foes, utterly disarmed by these silent, formless threats. Your whip, your cross, your strength, they are meaningless against the slow decay of the spirit, the poisoned breath of the city, the unseen chains of endless labor. The world has changed, and with it, the very nature of evil. It no longer stalks in castles, but lurks in the very air, in the very routine of daily life, a profound and horrifying realization that leaves you with a deep, unsettling fear. How do you hunt a monster that wears 1,000 human faces and leaves no blood behind? The jarring impact of the unyielding ground reverberates up through your heavy boots, a persistent, dull ache in your heels and knees. It's not the soft, forgiving earth of a forest path, nor the rough, uneven rock of a castle dungeon. This is a flat, hard surface, relentless in its uniformity, covered in a thin, gritty layer of coal dust and something else, something metallic and fine. Your senses, accustomed to the subtle shifts of terrain, now feel numb, deprived of the rich information the natural world provides. You walk along a wide, seemingly endless thoroughfare, a river of hard gray stone that stretches into the smoky distance. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump of your own heavy footsteps seems amplified, echoing strangely in the dense urban air. Every step is a deliberate act, devoid of the flowing grace you possess on varied terrain. Your ankles feel stiff, your knees protest the lack of give, and the muscles in your calves begin to burn with an unfamiliar fatigue. This relentless flatness is its own kind of challenge, a physical grind you hadn't anticipated. Your gaze scans the ground, a hunter's instinct to find purchase, to identify hazards. But there are no roots to trip on, no loose stones to dislodge, no muddy patches to navigate. Just this unending, unyielding surface, broken only by the occasional iron grate or the deep, parallel grooves worn by countless carriage wheels. You notice the shoes of the other people, thin-soled, seemingly offering little protection or support, yet they move with an effortless, almost gliding stride. Their bodies are accustomed to this unnatural foundation, while yours, forged in the wild, feels profoundly out of place. The air, heavy with the ubiquitous scent of coal smoke, also carries a faint, acrid smell that seems to rise from the very stones themselves, a metallic tang of industry and forgotten grime. You feel disconnected from the earth, from its living pulse. The ground beneath you offers no secrets, no hidden paths, no soft places for roots to take hold. It is entirely constructed, an artificial skin laid over the world, insulating you from the soil, from the worms, from the deep primal rhythms of nature you understand. You press on, each step a small testament to your endurance, but also a growing irritation. This isn't just a path, it's a barrier, a deliberate separation from the natural world that has always sustained you. The lack of variation, the sheer, unrelenting hardness of the ground, feels like a subtle assault, slowly eroding your natural agility, dulling your ingrained connection to the land. You realize that even the simple act of walking here is a battle, a constant, low-level war against a surface that utterly rejects the wildness within you. And this unyielding path, you understand, is just another way this new world slowly, subtly seeks to break you. The unrelenting hard surface beneath your boots has become an ache, a dull throb in your soles that climbs into your shins. It's a constant, jarring reminder of where you are and where you are not. The cold, unyielding stone of the city streets offers no give, no earthy scent, no subtle variation to guide your step. Your feet, accustomed to the soft resilience of forest floor, the shifting grit of mountain paths, or even the damp, uneven flagstones of a castle, feel numb, severed from the vital pulse of the earth. You pause, stepping into a shallow alcove between two grimy buildings, pressing the rough brick wall with your palm. Your eyes trace the cracks in the pavement, the faint sheen of oil and damp, the bits of discarded paper clinging to stagnant puddles. There's no life here, not in the ground itself. No roots breaking through, no wild flowers stubbornly pushing upwards, no moss claiming ancient stones. It's a manufactured surface, cold and indifferent, designed to carry the weight of machines and countless hurried feet, but offering nothing in return. Your mind drifts, pulled by an insistent, primal longing. You can almost feel the spring of rich, dark soil beneath your boots, the deep, satisfying sink and push of loam. You remember the damp, earthy fragrance that rises after a fresh rain in a dense forest, mingled with the sharp scent of pine needles and decaying leaves. You can almost hear the crunch of dry grass, The soft whisper of unseen creatures scuttling through undergrowth, each sound a vital piece of information. The ground in your memory is a living map. Each texture, each incline, each loose stone a clue, a challenge, a friend. You recall scaling rocky cliffs, your calloused fingers finding purchase in rough crevices, the raw, cold stone scraping against your skin, solid and true, or descending into the deep, echoing quiet of subterranean passages, the damp earth smelling of mineral and ancient, patient slumber. That ground felt alive, a conduit, a source of strength. It spoke to you, offering hidden paths, secret passages, or firm footing in the heat of battle. It was a partner in your fight, an extension of your very being. But here, this hard, indifferent surface, covered in the detritus of 1,000 human lives, says nothing. It offers no comfort, no guidance, no raw, untamed connection. Your body yearns for the give and take of natural terrain, for the deep, grounding embrace of wild earth. This city, with its endless, unyielding paths, feels like a cage, built not with iron bars, but with an artificiality that slowly, subtly, starves your primal self. You realize that to walk on such ground day after day is to lose a piece of who you are, to slowly forget the very language of the living world. And that loss, you understand, is a profound and silent pain, a strange, shimmering light, restless and unnatural, flickers against the grimy brick of a side street, pulling your gaze. It's not the steady glow of gaslight, nor the dancing flame of a candle. This is a cold, stark brilliance, alive with subtle, rapid shifts, accompanied by a soft, whirring hum and a faint, rhythmic clatter, like unseen gears grinding in unison. It's an ethereal glow, like a captured spirit struggling for release, emanating from a darkened doorway. Your curiosity, a deep-seated need to understand the new world's oddities, draws you closer, your boots silent on the damp cobblestones. You step into a cramped, dim room, thick with the scent of old wood, dust, and something faintly acrid, like burnt oil. All eyes are fixed forward, a small gathering of figures, their faces bathed in an eerie, pulsing luminescence. They sit on rough benches, unnervingly still, their breath held, completely absorbed by the spectacle before them. You notice their wide, almost unblinking stares, their slack jaws, a collective trance that feels both unsettling and deeply powerful. Ahead, on a stretched white sheet, images dance, not paintings, not static drawings, but moving specters of life. A man tips his hat, then bows with impossible speed, a blur of motion that repeats endlessly. A horse gallops, its hooves kicking up phantom dust, its muscles rippling with an unnerving, silent grace. Then, a woman laughs, her mouth opening wide, her body shaking with soundless mirth. It's a series of silent, flickering ghosts, caught in a perpetual loop, their movements both fluid and strangely jerky, their very existence a violation of natural laws. Your eyes strain, trying to comprehend this impossible vision. The light pulses, making your head ache, throwing the room into stark relief one moment, then plunging it into near darkness the next. It feels like watching a dream, or perhaps a vision conjured by some subtle, dark magic. You try to grasp the reality of it, to understand how these beings exist, without substance, without a tangible presence. Your mind, accustomed to the solid forms of friend and foe, rebels against this ethereal reality. You find yourself drawn in, your body still, your breath shallow, your own senses overwhelmed. The constant, silent movement on the screen is a hypnotic force, a window into a parallel existence that mimics life with uncanny precision, yet feels utterly cold, utterly devoid of warmth or blood. The faces of the other viewers, illuminated by this unnatural gleam, seem almost childlike in their wonder, their awe. This is a new kind of magic, you realize, a new way to capture and manipulate reality, far more subtle and pervasive than any necromancy. It is a spectacle that promises life, yet delivers only ghosts, leaving you with a profound sense of awe, confusion, and a chilling understanding that even what is real can now be twisted, copied, and endlessly replayed. This glowing sheet, you understand, is a gateway to a new world of illusion, and it mesmerizes you, just as it terrifies. The shimmering, unnatural light from the stretched sheet still dances behind your eyes, a persistent afterimage even as you turn away. The faint, whirring hum of the projection machine continues, a quiet pulse that seems to resonate not in your ears, but in the very core of your being. It's an unsettling echo of life without substance, a vibrant, moving ghost captured within a machine. Your mind, accustomed to grappling with tangible monstrosities and dark, albeit understandable, magic, strains to categorize this new phenomenon. You touch your fingers to your temples, a dull ache throbbing behind your eyes, a lingering consequence of staring at those flickering apparitions. Was it a powerful illusion, a mirage conjured by some unseen sorcerer? You've faced phantoms before, specters that could wound and kill, but even they possessed a discernible, if ethereal, form, a presence that bespoke malicious intent. These images, however, are different. They carry no scent of sulfur or decay, no chilling aura of the damned. They are merely light, playing tricks on the fabric of reality. Yet with such undeniable conviction, you watch the other observers, their eyes still fixed on the screen, their faces glowing with a silent, absorbed wonder. They accept this impossibility, this silent mimicry of life, without question. To them it is entertainment, a novel amusement. To you it is a profound disruption, a tear in the very fabric of what constitutes reality. How can a man tip his hat endlessly, a horse gallop without end, a woman laugh silently, without being truly present, truly alive? It defies every natural law. Every principle of existence. This isn't necromancy. It's something far more subtle, more insidious, more deeply unsettling, because it is not evil, but simply is. Your grip tightens, almost unconsciously, on the familiar coiled leather of your whip beneath your cloak. But what would a strike against such a thing achieve? You cannot lash out at light, cannot fight a specter that holds no physical form, that bleeds no blood. Your weapons, honed for tangible threats, feel powerless against this ghost in the machine. It is a war waged not with steel, but with perception, with the dismantling of fundamental truths. You step back, the cool, solid wall, a welcome anchor against the dizzying unreality. The silent, flickering images on the screen represent a future that not only exists without your understanding, but actively subverts it. It is a world where truth can be imitated, captured, and endlessly replayed, making the very concept of real, fluid, and fragile. You are a warrior of concrete evils, but this future, with its ghosts and machines, presents a challenge that reaches beyond fangs and curses, threatening the very foundations of what you understand to be true. And in that unsettling realization, you understand the true battle for your sanity has only just begun. The relentless, oppressive clamor of the city recedes, replaced by a sudden, profound quiet that feels like a physical release. The air, heavy with coal smoke and metallic tang, begins to shift. A new scent, clean and vibrant, washes over you, the sweet, earthy aroma of damp soil, mingled with the fresh, green fragrance of growing leaves and something faintly floral. It's a breath of life, a primal perfume that makes your lungs expand with a desperate, forgotten pleasure. Your body, tense and rigid from the urban assault, visibly relaxes, a deep sigh escaping your lips. You step through a grand wrought-iron gate, a surprising sentinel amidst the brick and grime. Before you stretches a vast expanse of green, not the wild, untamed forests you know, but a meticulously cultivated tapestry of emerald grass, dotted with ancient, towering trees whose branches swayed gently in a soft breeze. Pathways of smooth, gray gravel wind through vibrant flower beds, bursting with colors you haven't seen in days. Crimson, gold, sapphire. It's an ordered wilderness, a tamed echo of the natural world, a stark contrast to the brutal chaos of the city. Your boots, accustomed to the jarring impact of cobblestones, now sink ever so slightly into the soft, yielding earth beneath the grass, a forgotten comfort. You walk slowly, deliberately, almost reverently, allowing the subtle give of the ground to massage your aching feet. The sunlight, diffused by the overhead canopy of leaves, paints shifting patterns on the ground, creating pockets of gentle warmth and cool shadow. You notice the tiny, intricate details, the delicate veins of a fallen leaf, the industrious scurry of an ant across a pebble, the iridescent gleam of a beetle on a flower petal. These are the textures, the rhythms, the silent stories of the natural world, and your senses drink them in, starved. The distant city hum is now a mere whisper, an almost harmless drone. Here, the dominant sounds are the rustle of leaves, the gentle chirping of unseen birds, and the soft murmur of water from a hidden fountain. You pause beside a wide, ancient oak, pressing your palm against its rough, furrowed bark. The wood feels alive, vibrant, radiating a quiet strength that resonates deep within your own lineage. It's a connection, a silent communion with something old, something enduring, something profoundly real. You watch children playing on the grass, their laughter light and unburdened, their movements free and unconstrained. They roll down gentle slopes, chase after bright butterflies, their faces innocent, untouched by the grime and weariness that so permeates the city streets. Here, even humanity seems gentler, less harried. This green expanse is more than just a park. It's a sanctuary, a living testament to nature's enduring power, even within the iron grasp of the modern world. You realize that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in wielding a weapon, but in simply finding a place where your spirit can breathe, a moment of profound, green peace amidst the storm. And in this moment you feel a faint, welcome echo of home. The cool, soft caress of the wind through the leaves is a gentle hand on your cheek, a stark contrast to the biting, grit-laden gusts of the city. Here, beneath the sprawling canopy of ancient trees, the air is clean, tasting of fresh dew and damp earth, a scent so familiar it brings an ache to your chest. The overwhelming aroma of coal smoke and industry is vanished, replaced by the subtle, intricate perfumes of growing things, crushed grass, unseen wildflowers, and the deep, resinous scent of tree bark, warmed by the filtered sunlight. It's a breath you've yearned for, a taste of home. You sit on a low, wooden bench, the rough, cool wood, a tangible connection to the natural world. Your boots, usually heavy and jarring on cobblestones, rest on a plush carpet of emerald grass, its blades cool and yielding against the leather. The insistent drone of the distant city is now merely a faint, almost melodic hum, a backdrop to the true symphony of this place. Above you, unseen birds chatter in intricate patterns, their calls bright and clear. Leaves rustle with a continuous whispering murmur, like 1,000 hushed voices sharing ancient secrets. It's the sound of life, unmarred by the relentless clang of metal or the screech of unseen machines. Your eyes, accustomed to discerning shadows and grime, now track the gentle dance of a butterfly, its wings a delicate splash of orange against the vibrant green. You watch a squirrel, bold and quick, scamper up the rough trunk of an oak, its tiny claws making a faint, scratching sound that, for once, holds no threat, only the rhythm of simple existence. This is the world your ancestors knew, a world where every sound, every scent, held meaning, where life and death played out in clear, understandable patterns. Here, for a precious few moments, your senses are not assaulted but soothed, finding a familiar rhythm that resonates deep within your ancient blood. You close your eyes, letting the gentle breeze wash over your face, soaking in the quiet. In your mind's eye, you are in a deep forest, the canopy so thick that only dappled light filters through, the air alive with the scent of pine and damp moss. You recall the focused stillness before a hunt, the profound peace found after a long day's march, when the only sounds were the crackle of your campfire and the distant call of a night bird. That feeling of being utterly connected, utterly at home in the wild, washes over you, warm and comforting. But then, a child's shrill, excited laugh pierces the calm, sharp and clear, pulling you back. It's a joyful sound, innocent, but it's a sound of this world, a world where nature is a carefully curated exhibit, a framed painting rather than an endless, living canvas. The distant hum of the city, though faint, is a constant, unyielding reminder of the concrete labyrinth that lies beyond these gates. This peace, you realize, is a fragile, temporary reprieve, a fading echo of a forest that no longer truly exists for you. It's a solace, yes, but one that only sharpens the ache for the untamed wild, for a freedom your spirit remembers, but your reality denies. A sudden gust of wind, sharp and cold, whips around the corner of a tall, brick building, catching your tattered cloak and sending a shiver through you. It carries the familiar, oppressive scent of coal smoke, damp stone, and the distant, metallic tang of industrial machinery. You pull the fabric tighter, hunching your shoulders, a familiar, almost automatic gesture against the pervasive chill. But it's not just the cold of the weather that gnaws at you. It's a deeper, more profound chill that settles in your spirit. You are moving through a bustling street, an endless torrent of humanity flowing around you like an indifferent river. Each face is a fleeting tableau, a grimace of worry, a flicker of joy, the vacant stare of exhaustion. You are a solitary island in this sea of bodies, jostled and brushed, yet utterly untouched. The constant, low roar of countless conversations and the rhythmic clatter of carriage wheels create a suffocating wall of sound, a cacophony that drowns out your own thoughts, yet makes you feel acutely alone. You observe a family gathered around a street vendor, their voices a low, affectionate murmur. A young child, small and bundled, clutches a brightly colored toy, its eyes wide with simple wonder. The mother smiles, a soft, familiar expression of warmth and protectiveness. The father places a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's a moment of profound connection, a shared existence that feels utterly alien to you. You stand apart, an invisible observer, a silent shadow in the periphery of their light. Your gaze falls to your own hand, clenched, knuckles white, the familiar, hidden weight of your whip a constant, silent presence. It's a burden you've carried for centuries, a sacred duty passed down through generations. You recall the rare, quiet moments, shared with a trusted ally, before a dangerous hunt, the unspoken understanding in their eyes, the shared weight of the mission. That camaraderie, that deep, unshakable bond forged in the crucible of battle, feels impossibly distant here. No one shares your burden. No one understands the true nature of the fight you are meant to wage. The weight of this unshared purpose presses down on you, heavier than any armor. You are surrounded by life, by bustling activity, by the vibrant, indifferent pulse of this new world. Yet you feel a solitude more profound than any forgotten crypt. Here, in the heart of this thriving metropolis, the true enemy isn't a monster with fangs. but the quiet, creeping despair of isolation, of being utterly alone in your ancient fight. This vast, indifferent swarm of humanity, you realize, is a loneliness you never knew possible, a burden that presses on your spirit, quiet and unyielding, the ceaseless flow of human chatter, 1,000 unintelligible whispers and shouts, washes over you like a cold tide. You move through it, an island of silence, feeling the constant brush of stranger against stranger, yet utterly disconnected. The vibrant, indifferent life of the city swirls around you, a stark contrast to the quiet ache that is settled in your chest. It's not a physical wound, but a hollowness, a familiar void that echoes the absence of those who once stood by your side. You pass a small, dimly lit tavern, the sounds of boisterous laughter and clinking tankards spilling out into the grimy street. For a fleeting moment, a vivid memory flashes across your mind, the warmth of a roaring hearth, the smell of ale and roasted meat, the heavy, comforting presence of loyal companions. You see the grizzled face of an old warrior, his eyes crinkling with hard-earned mirth as he recounts a tale of battle. You feel the rough wood of the table beneath your palm, the clink of your own tankard against his, a shared moment of respite before the next inevitable fight. That memory is sharp, almost painful in its clarity. The banter, the quiet nods of understanding, the shared glance that conveyed entire strategies without a word. These were the threads that bound your life, the anchors in a world of constant peril. You remember the trust, the unwavering loyalty, the unspoken promise that no matter how dire the odds, you would face them together. Even in the deepest dungeons, the darkest castles, you were rarely truly alone. Your bloodline, yes, but also those brave souls who chose to stand with you against the rising tide of darkness. Here, in this modern, bustling city, that companionship is a ghost. The laughter from the tavern, though human and warm, is not your laughter, not shared with your comrades. The faces passing you are unknown, their lives separate, their burdens distinct. No one here understands the weight of your family's history, the chilling reality of the monsters you fought, or the endless vigilance required to merely exist in your world. Your whip, a silent extension of your will, remains hidden, its purpose a secret that cannot be shared. You pull your cloak tighter, a familiar gesture against a cold that has nothing to do with the weather. The noise of the city, once merely overwhelming, now feels like a wall, a barrier between you and any possible connection. The ache in your chest deepens. You are a hunter, yes, but a solitary one now, without a pack, without the familiar faces that knew the true meaning of the shadows. And this loneliness, this profound emptiness of lost companionship, is a heavier burden than any armor, a constant, quiet battle that tests the very core of your warrior's heart. The acrid tang of burnt oil mixed with the sickly sweet scent of coal smoke stings your nostrils, forcing a grimace. It's a harsh, unfamiliar smell, entirely unlike the sulphurous stench of a demon's breath or the damp decay of a crypt. You are navigating a narrow, crowded street, the endless flow of bodies pressing in on all sides, jostling for space. Your ingrained hunter's awareness, usually tuned to the subtle shifts of an approaching monster, now grapples with a bewildering array of mundane, yet surprisingly persistent, dangers. A sudden, sharp cry pierces the din as a small boy, chasing a rolling wooden hoop, darts out from between two lumbering carts. A horse-drawn dray, heavy and fast, clatters menacingly close, its driver shouting a harsh warning. Your body tenses, muscles coiled, ready to spring, to grab the child, to deflect the brute force of the beast. But before you can move, an older woman, her movements surprisingly swift, snatches the boy back, pulling him to safety with a scolding murmur. The dray thunders past, oblivious, leaving only the reverberation of its massive wheels. The danger was fleeting, accidental, unheroic. No fangs, no magic, just the indifferent crush of daily life. You find your gaze repeatedly drawn to the ground, not searching for hidden traps or the telltale glow of a magic item, but for something far more prosaic. Discarded waste, slick patches of mud, uneven cobblestones. A momentary misstep could send you sprawling, not into the waiting arms of a zombie, but onto the hard, unyielding stone. An indignity that would leave you exposed and vulnerable in a way no demon ever could. Your legendary agility, honed for leaping chasms and dodging spectral attacks, feels almost absurd when applied to the simple act of avoiding horse droppings. The sheer volume of people itself is a constant, low-level threat. Each brush of a stranger against your cloak, each unexpected jostle, creates a spark of primal alarm. Not because they are monsters, but because they are unpredictable, indifferent, and too numerous. A quick, furtive hand brushes your side, and your senses flare, only to realize it was merely a passing pedestrian, their hand brushing you by accident. The constant vigilance, usually a shield against genuine evil, is here a source of endless, exhausting frustration. This new world, you realize, is not devoid of danger. It is simply teeming with dangers that defy your training, that cannot be met with a whip or a cross. The threats are small, numerous, and profoundly unheroic. A speeding cart, a slippery patch of street, the indifferent push of a crowd. They chip away at your composure, drain your energy, and offer no glorious victory, only the quiet, nagging fear of mundane injury, of a fall that draws unwanted attention. This is a battle you are ill-equipped for, a relentless skirmish against the trivial, yet omnipresent perils of modern life. And in this fight against the unheroic, you feel an unfamiliar, profound sense of helplessness. The constant, low thrum of unseen machinery pulses beneath the cobblestones, a deep, pervasive vibration that works its way up your legs, leaving your muscles restless and on edge. Your hand, instinctively, finds the familiar, cool leather of your whip beneath your cloak, a silent reassurance. You are in a narrow street, crowded and bustling, the air thick with the smell of damp brick and the metallic tang of distant industry. Every instinct, every honed reflex screams for a target, a clear enemy to face. A loud, piercing whistle, sharp and sudden, cuts through the din. You flinch, your heart leaping, your eyes darting, searching for the source of this alarm. Is it a demonic shriek, a call to arms from some unseen foe? Your grip on your whip tightens, ready to unleash its ancient power, to send it snapping through the air with a decisive crack. But there is nothing. Just a man in a dark, uniform coat, standing by the roadside, blowing a small silver whistle at a lumbering, horse-drawn carriage that seems to have stopped awkwardly in the middle of the street. He shouts, his voice harsh, his gestures angry, but his ire is directed at a clumsy driver, not a monstrous beast. The threat dissolves into mundane frustration. You observe the other people. Their faces are not etched with terror, not contorted by demonic possession. Instead, you see a quiet resignation, a weariness, a subtle, almost invisible despair that seems to cling to them like a shroud. You see children with pale, thin faces, their coughs racking their small bodies. You see men with hunched shoulders, their eyes dulled by endless toil. These are not ghouls, not vampires, not skeletal warriors risen from the grave. These are simply humans, suffering from ills your whip cannot touch, from burdens your strength cannot lift. Your mind races, trying to find a parallel, a way to apply your immense power to these new, insidious evils. Can you whip away the coal smoke that chokes their lungs? Can you lash out at the unseen poverty that gnaws at their bellies? Can your cross banish the indifferent, endless grind that hollows their spirits? The absurdity of the thought is a bitter taste in your mouth. Your weapon, forged for tangible horrors, is impotent here. Your righteous fury, usually a potent force, has no clear target. You slowly release your grip on the whip, letting it settle back against your hip, its weight suddenly feeling heavier, more like a dead thing. The frustration is a physical ache, a burning in your chest. You are a warrior, but the battles of this new age are fought with invisible weapons, against formless foes. And in this world, where the true evil is not a single monstrous entity but a pervasive, subtle corrosion of life itself, your blade, your whip, your entire existence as a demon hunter feels like a forgotten relic, powerful yet utterly useless. You are a hunter without a proper hunt, and that, you realize, is a deeper torment than any dungeon. The cold, damp air of the alley presses against your face, carrying the familiar stale scent of refuse and unseen damp earth. It's a familiar kind of gloom, one that once promised the lurking presence of something monstrous, something that needed to be hunted. Your hand instinctively goes to the whip, its familiar weight a quiet comfort against your side. But the comfort is fleeting, quickly replaced by a profound, gnawing emptiness. Your eyes scan the shadows, not for glowing eyes or skeletal forms, but for nothing, just the mundane grime of the city. You recall the chill of ancient crypts, the sulphurous stench of a demon's breath, the triumphant crack of your whip as another creature of darkness fell. Each swing, each battle, was a reaffirmation of your purpose, a necessary step in the endless crusade against Dracula's legions. The bloodline, the training, the very essence of your being was forged for this singular, vital task, to rid the world of evil. That purpose was a burning fire, a relentless drive that pulled you from one perilous encounter to the next. Here, in this sprawling, indifferent city, that fire feels like a dying ember. You walk the labyrinthine streets, day and night, your senses perpetually alert, yet never finding a true target. You see people, yes, in their countless numbers, rushing past with their concerns, their subtle pains, their fleeting joys. But you see no ghouls, no vampires, no skeletal warriors, no gargoyles perched on the rooftops. No obvious, tangible evil that can be met with the holy power of your family's legendary weapon. The darkness here is a different kind of darkness. Pervasive, subtle, human. It cannot be whipped. The weight of your weapon, once a source of immense power and undeniable conviction, now feels like a hollow burden. You are a warrior without a war, a hunter without a hunt. The skills honed over centuries, the reflexes sharpened in 1,000 battles, are now rendered meaningless. Your profound strength has no outlet, your righteous fury no target. It's a profound, chilling frustration, a sense of an empty crusade. Your very existence, defined by the fight, now lacks its defining element. You lean against the rough brick wall, the cold seeping through your cloak. The silence of Dracula, the absence of his monstrous legions, is not the victory you imagined. It is a terrifying void, a world where your sacred purpose has been stripped away, leaving you adrift and lost. You are a living anachronism, a ghost of a war that, to this new world, has either been won or simply forgotten. And in this profound absence of monsters, you realize the greatest threat is not a demon's fang, but the quiet, creeping despair of a purpose unfulfilled, a legacy without an enemy. The empty crusade, you understand, is the loneliest battle of all. The rhythmic clack, clack, clack of something being worked on cuts through the urban din, not violently, but with precision. It's a sharp, almost musical sound, different from the dull clang of industry or the haphazard noise of a busy street. This sound has a pulse, a controlled energy, drawing you towards a dimly lit open doorway in a quieter side street. The air here smells distinctly of hot metal, of wood shavings, and something surprisingly clean, like faint oil and honest effort. It's a scent that hints at deliberate creation, not random decay. You step into a small, cluttered workshop, dimly lit by a single gas lamp overhead that casts long, dancing shadows. Tools of various sizes hang neatly on pegboards, their polished surfaces glinting softly in the confined space. A man, his sleeves rolled up, his face smudged with soot and sweat, bends over an anvil, his movements fluid and powerful. He wields a hammer not with brute force but with a surprising grace, striking a glowing piece of metal that hisses and sparks with each impact, sending tiny embers skittering across the floor. You watch him, mesmerized by the transformation. The raw, dull metal, initially a crude, unyielding lump, slowly yields under his repeated, precise strikes, twisting, lengthening, taking on a new, intricate form. The fire's glow paints his concentrated face in flickering orange light. His brow is furrowed, a deep crease of intense focus, his eyes sharp, fixed on the evolving material. There's no wasted movement, no hesitation in his powerful, yet controlled, blows. His hands, though grimy and scarred by labor, possess a quiet mastery, a deep, almost innate understanding of the material he molds, coaxing its stubborn essence into a new existence. It's a different kind of strength, you realize, a creative power, far from the destructive force of your whip, but equally potent in its own right. For a precious few moments, the relentless clamor of the world outside truly fades. The endless rush of the city, the anonymity of the crowd, the gnawing sense of a purpose lost. They all recede, banished by this singular focused act of creation. Here, in this small glowing space, a different kind of battle is being waged. A silent, persistent struggle against inert matter, against the unyielding nature of the metal itself, transforming it into something both beautiful and functional. You feel a strange, profound resonance, a deep recognition of the discipline, the unwavering patience, the quiet dedication reflected in each resounding hammer blow. It's a fight that, while utterly different from facing a demon, demands a similar fierce focus, a similar unwavering resolve, a mastery that speaks to your own ingrained spirit. You lean against the rough doorframe, the quiet heat from the forge, a welcome warmth against your skin. A profound realization settles in. Perhaps the fight against darkness is not the only purpose. This craftsman, with his focused intent, transforms raw material into something new, something useful, something born of skill. It's a different kind of enduring spirit, a different way to contribute. In this small, warm space, you feel a faint stirring, a quiet curiosity. Perhaps meaning awaits a hand trained to destroy, now seeking to shape. The true path, you understand, may lie not in finding a monster, but in discovering a new kind of mark to leave on this world. The biting chill of the pre-dawn air, heavy with the scent of damp brick and stale coal smoke, clings to your cloak, seeping into your bones. It's a familiar cold, but devoid of the profound stillness that once accompanied the arrival of dawn in a forgotten land. Here, the distant, ceaseless hum of the city begins to stir, growing louder with the first hesitant light, a low, mechanical growl that announces the relentless awakening of this new world. You stand on a high vantage point, a weathered stone bridge arching over a dark, sluggish river. Below, the water reflects the bruised purple of the horizon, a murky mirror for a melancholy sky. The first faint blush of orange and pink bleeds into the oppressive gray, not with the dramatic flare of a sunrise over a vampire's castle, but with a quiet, almost reluctant spread. It illuminates the endless sprawl of blackened rooftops, the towering chimneys already beginning to exhale their dark plumes into the brightening sky. It's a vista of human industry, vast and undeniable, entirely devoid of ancient Gothic spires or untouched wilderness. Your eyes, once trained to scan for the retreating shadows of nocturnal beasts, now track the sparse figures moving along the streets below. They are early risers, their forms hunched against the chill, their purposeful strides carrying them into the nascent day. Their presence, once a source of confusion, now evokes a different feeling, a quiet, almost melancholic acceptance. They are simply living, navigating this new world with a resilience you are slowly, painstakingly, beginning to understand. Their lives are not defined by grand battles against ultimate evil, but by the quiet, persistent struggle of daily existence. The wind shifts, carrying the sharp, metallic tang of burning refuse, mixed with the faint sweetness of damp wood. It's the breath of a world that is constantly consuming, constantly remaking itself, leaving behind an indelible mark on the very air. Your hand instinctively goes to the whip, its familiar weight a momentary comfort, but the urge to wield it, to strike at some unseen horror, is muted. The monsters of your past, the demons you were bred to destroy, are not here, or perhaps their forms have changed, become too subtle, too pervasive to be met with a simple swing of leather. The sun finally crests the distant horizon, a pale, watery disk that offers light, but little warmth. It washes over the city, revealing every grimy detail, every stark line of brick and iron. There is no triumph in this dawn, no sense of a victory won over darkness. Only the quiet, unrelenting promise of another day in a world that refuses to bend to your ancient purpose. You realize, with a heavy yet strangely calm heart, that you are not in a battle for the world's soul, but in a struggle for your own place within it. And this new day stretching before you is a silent invitation to find a different kind of meaning, a different path to walk, even under a sky that feels both alien and undeniably real. The pale, watery light of dawn has surrendered completely to the relentless, unfiltered glare of morning. The sun, a cold, indifferent eye in the pale sky, washes over the city, revealing every grimy detail, every stark line of brick and iron. The air, heavy with the scent of coal smoke and damp earth, no longer stings with unfamiliarity, but settles with a dull, almost accepted weight. You stand on the bridge, the cold stone a familiar anchor beneath your boots, and something within you shifts. The initial shock, the confusion, the gnawing despair, they haven't vanished, but they have hardened, coalesced into a quiet, unyielding core of resolve. You sweep your gaze across the endless sprawl of rooftops, the chimneys already actively exhaling their dark plumes into the morning. The ceaseless hum of the waking city rises around you, a mechanical symphony that once assaulted your senses. Now, you find your ears subtly shifting, attempting to pick out individual threads from the cacophony. The distinct clatter of a distant cart, the rhythmic clang from an unseen workshop, the sharp, hurried cries of vendors below. It's an effort, a constant internal struggle, but your mind, ancient and resilient, refuses to be utterly overwhelmed. It seeks patterns, rhythms, points of focus, even in this chaos. Your hand, almost without conscious thought, closes around the familiar, coiled leather of your whip beneath your cloak. Its weight, once a mocking reminder of a lost purpose, now feels different. Not a burden, but a tool. A symbol, yes, but also an extension of your will, of your inherent strength. Your eyes, once hunting for grotesque fangs and glowing eyes, now observe the human tide below, with a new kind of scrutiny. You see the hunched shoulders of a worker, the quick, worried glance of a mother, the quiet desperation etched on a street vendor's face. These are not monsters of legend, but their struggles, their subtle pains, are real, tangible, and perhaps a different kind of darkness. You remember the blacksmith, his focused intent, turning raw, unyielding metal into something new, something useful. His hands, though not wielding a weapon against demons, shaped his world. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor runs through your own body, a stirring of latent power, of a strength that demands an outlet. The enemies of this age are insidious, formless, yes, but the need for protection, for courage, for a hand that can strike against injustice or despair, still exists. Your purpose may have shifted, the battleground changed, but the fundamental need for a guardian, for one who fights against encroaching darkness, remains. You turn from the vast industrial vista, your steps firm on the cold stone. The cold sunlight, once a searing pain, now illuminates a path you must forge, not one given. The world around you continues its relentless, indifferent churn, but your spirit, though scarred by the journey, is no longer lost. It is simply and fiercely awake. You realize that true resilience isn't about fighting the old battles, but about finding the strength to stand in the new ones, to adapt your ancient purpose to a world that has forgotten its ancient fears. Your name, your lineage, your whip, they will find a new meaning, a new way to fight. Because a hunter, even without his usual prey, is still a force to be reckoned with, and even in a transformed world, the essence of the fight, the need for a protector, endures.